After seeing another body in the water, 81 announces it's time to keep moving. After hours of walking through the hills and the forest, 81 stops the team when he finds a trap. It's a rope on the trees connected to a flare, which means it was set up by their sergeants as part of the original mission. They dodge it and keep walking until they finally reach the village, only to discover it's been destroyed by the robot. The antenna is broken, explaining why comms don't work. 81 tracks the direction of the destruction and looks up the mountain, where he notices dark smoke. The team realizes that the robot came with a fragmented asteroid and therefore it's alien technology. At that moment they hear a voice, so they move some debris and find a sergeant, whose whole body is burned. He only gives them one last look before he dies. There's a tank nearby, so 81 wants to fix it and leave quickly. 15 says they need a minute and complains about 81's lack of feelings, causing 81 to snap. He grabs 15's by his clothes and explains that after the incident, he didn't make it back to the base. He woke up in a hospital and his brother was already in a box on a plane. Doctors told him that he passed out 100 yards from the perimeter, so his brother died because 81 couldn't last a little longer. He thinks the medal only signifies the worst day in his life. 81 understands everyone's feelings, but this isn't about them anymore. They need to return to the base to warn the world about the alien threat. At first 15 can only stare at how everyone is inspired by 81's words and rush to help. The tank still won't start, so 15 decides to finally jump in and uses his mechanic knowledge to get the tank going. The guys use a rope to pull the tank out of the debris, and the shaking opens a compartment with some food that 44 immediately shares. At that moment a flare appears in the sky and the team realizes that the robot must have stepped on the trap. Everyone rushes to get in the tank except for 15, who goes back to grab some ammo. The robot appears and opens fire at him, killing him right after he throws the ammo into the tank. 44 drives the tank through the forest while the guys use the ammo to open fire, but it seems human weapons don't cause any damage to it. The robot's attacks keep hitting the tank, so 44 forces the vehicle to go as fast as possible. When part of the tank catches on fire, the team immediately puts it out with an extinguisher, but clearly the armor can't last much longer. To the team's surprise the robot suddenly stops following them, but that's because it's shooting more explosives. The bombs explode around the tank and throw everyone around, causing them to hit their heads on the walls. Yet 44 never stops driving. When the robot shoots several grenades, the resulting explosion is finally big enough to push the tank down the hill. It crashes into every tree in the way until it manages to leave the forest, and the team doesn't see the robot behind them anymore. Unfortunately this is because the robot is now above them. It jumps off the cliff and lands in front of the tank to shoot a powerful laser beam. 44 manages to dodge it, however the robot starts chasing them again. The guys fire back at it with any weapon they can find, but it's still useless and 109 ends up losing an arm in the process. The robot then shoots the laser beam again and 44 tries her best to dodge it, but the tank still loses half its armor. 7 suddenly slips out and 81 grabs the stretcher's rope to keep it close, however another shot from the robot makes him lose it and 7 falls on the road. 81 then shoots at the mountain to cause a landslide that buries the robot. At that moment, the tank explodes. Another nightmare shows the brothers on the ground and 81 hearing his sibling telling him not to quit. Then 81 wakes up and searches the area. Unfortunately everyone has been burned to death and he's the only survivor. Seeing some sparks on the rocks, 81 rushes to move them to look for the robot, but he only finds one of its arms. When he turns around, he sees the rest of the robot sending a signal to space. Afterward 81 runs to the road and finds 7 still on the stretcher. Suddenly the robot shoots at the tank before approaching it, so 81 runs away with 7. For the next several hours, 81 keeps pulling the stretcher, refusing to abandon his teammate. He moves under heavy rain and gets stuck in the mud, where the rope breaks. He slips a few times before his watch starts beeping, indicating the 24 hours to finish the mission are over. At that moment 7 wakes up and reveals he used to be in the same team as 81's brother, who never shut up about being a ranger. 7 thinks 81 hasn't failed because he's never given up. Their chat is interrupted by the robot's scan, and 81 notices there's smoke coming out of it, which means it's venting. He also sees the quarry nearby, which gives him an idea. After hiding 7, 81 rushes to the private quarry where he finds dynamite, a flare gun, and a remote that controls the rock carrier. The robot soon enters the forest and almost finds 7. However 81 shoots the flare and the robot goes to the quarry instead. As soon as it arrives at the quarry, the dynamites blow up and make the robot collapse. Then 81 comes out in a bulldozer and pushes the robot to trap it against the wall. As the robot tries to fight back, 81 activates the carrier so rocks start falling on top of it. The robot soon activates its thrusters and manages to push the bulldozer to move away from the wall. It also gets the laser beam ready, however 81 speeds up and pushes it into the wall again. Although the bulldozer is starting to fail, this time it manages to hold the robot up long enough for the rocks to block its vents, causing it to overheat inside. As a last desperate attempt, the robot shoots down a tower that falls on top of the bulldozer, but thankfully 81 jumps out just in time. The overheating then causes the robot to blow up, triggering a chain of explosions thanks to the hidden dynamite. The robot collapses and finally shuts down, but its compartment accidentally opens and explosives fall out. 81 runs as fast as possible and manages to leave the quarry right before the flames activate those bombs into an even bigger explosion. The next morning, 81 carries 7 on his shoulders to the base, where he finds utter chaos and bodies everywhere. Some helicopters are also dropping alien machine parts. After the doctors take 7 away, Sheridan tells 81 that they just secured this base and they lost half the battalion. The alien robots were everywhere and humanity managed to neutralize the first wave, but they're now getting ready for a global invasion. On the news, footage from all over the world shows asteroid fragments landing in different countries to release the robots. Political leaders are gathering to make a plan and allied forces of all kinds are teaming up. 81 tells Sheridan about the robot's ventilation system being the weak spot and the information is immediately sent to every country. Sheridan says this intel will save lives and officially welcomes 81 as a ranger. Afterward, 81 gives a speech for the ranger team before they all leave together in the helicopters, ready to fight. When he falls asleep, he dreams about a bonding moment with his brother instead of the usual nightmares.